Or he was worrying about that anyway.
But he hadn't run in the 2000 Guineas Seabird, so this horse is going to try and do Nijinsky anyway.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Nijinsky, of course, went on to win the St. Leger and the Triple Crown. Probably that effort cost him the Arc de Triomphe, which was his first defeat. One thinks of it as his only defeat, but in fact he did get beaten twice.
And Shergar, of course, completely destroyed them, the same stable. But this horse, Michael South already said, he's quicker than Shergar.
He could just do what Shergar did, couldn't he? It looks this year as though there's every possibility that he might give us a really, really spellbinding victory. I hope so.
Of course, this is also, John, not only a noble occasion and how long your period will last in this great new era.
I'm an endangered species.
Now, if you go by statistics, you will not be backing a grey horse in this afternoon's derby, because in the 217 previous runnings of the world's greatest flat race, only 4 greys have been led into this coveted winner's enclosure. Now, today we've got 3 grey colts attempting to do the business. We have Silver Patriarch, strongly fancied, Cloudings from France, and The Fly. And they'll each be hoping to become the first grey for over 50 years to win. Indeed, the last was Airborne, way back in 1946. Just look at these crowds. There must have been nearly 500,000 of them enjoying a day out the races after the war. The grey Airborne, number 13. It wasn't unlucky, though, for him.
Got to the front. Airborne swerved out, but Lowry straightened him in time, and he raced on to win by a length at 50 to 1 with Gulfstream second and Radiotherapy third.
The historic town of Arundel, set in the beautiful countryside of Sussex. What a place to train racehorses. John Dunlop has sent out 2 Derby winners from here, and now his great white hope is this one. Silver Patriarch, who comes to the race fresh from victory in the Lingfield Derby trial. And that win convinced trainer John Dunlop that he'll stay every inch of the mile and a half.
Yes, he'll get the triple, right? Whether he's got the class and a bit of brilliance that you need at Epsom, time will tell us.
When he ran at Sandown, did he run better than you expected him to?
Well, he ran better than one thought he possibly could on his form, because he was a long way behind a horse like Benny the Dip on the ratings and so on. So I was particularly pleased.
This Voyager's Quest that's really attacking now. Voyager's Quest and Benny the Dip, they're both lengthening their strides. Silver Patriarch back in third as they race inside the last 150 yards. It's Voyager's Quest going on under John Reed. Voyager's Quest, Benny the Dip, Silver Patriarch. He's eating ground close home, but Voyager's Quest takes it. Voyager's Quest tight for second. Benny the Dip and Silver Patriarch.
Well, I was nervous about the soft ground at Lingfield, particularly because his brother, my Patriarch, won the Henry II Stakes, loved firm ground and didn't go well at all on soft ground. And this horse won on firm ground last year, so one was worried about the soft ground, but he went through it very well.
There's nothing flashy or brilliant about the horse at all, though. He seems to have a very calm constitution and just gallops. He's one of the few going to Epsom that's guaranteed to get the trip, isn't he?
I think he's probably the only one that's won over a mile and a half, probably. The first week after Lingfield, he had a quiet time, but cantered every day. and then started work again the week after that, and did a good bit of work on Friday last.
Well, you know much better than people like me the class and brilliance that is required, having trained Shirley Heights and Erhard to win a derby. How would he compare with them?
It's always impossible to tell. They both won the Dante, which I always think is really probably the best of the Derby trials, which in one sort of way reflects well on him, because Benny the Dip won it this year, as you know, and we were only beaten a fast diminishing head by him when we were third at Sandown. But they are difficult to compare, horses of different generations, very hard.
Is there still something special in the Dunlop household about the Derby itself?
Oh, I think there's something special in every trainer, every owner's household about the Derby. It still is the race that everybody wants to win.
For his first, Sir, what about you?
Silver Patriarch, the only one proven over the distance. Each way, cautiously.
What are you going for in the Derby?
I'm going for Cloudings.
Cloudings, the French horse.
Just a feeling.
Oh, just a feeling. Madam, what about you?
Entrepreneur.
Your first one, why?
Well, I think he's a great horse.
And you're not put off by the price at all?
No.
No? Well, how much are you going to have on?
I'm not having a bet, but I fancy him.
That's a nice way to do it. Madam, you're studying the card there. What's going to win the Derby?
Benny the Dip.
Benny the Dip, why?
Oh, the Dip. I like the name.
That's good enough for me. Let's see what are you going for in the Derby?
Oh, Patriarch.
Oh, Patriarch, right, in the Derby. Which horse in the Derby?
Well, I've bet Entrepreneur at 12-1, so it's looking good at the moment.
Can you give us a bit of sixes? What are you going for?
Value Romanoff each way.
Romanoff?
Yes.
Why do you fancy that?
Well, I heard they worked well here yesterday.
He did. You obviously watching the morning line. Hey, what about you, sir?
No, I'm going for Forest in the Derby.
Why is that?
Well, because I think it's probably got the best chance of winning.
Yes. That's good enough.
Yeah.
And everybody, well, here we are at the winning post. It's down to you, and it's interesting. Only
Russian Groom is third. Then after leading three, make it run towards the outside Monseigneur. $1 Million Man now dropping back. They run now towards the final furlong. It's Willie Carlton, Hot Grove. Lester Pickett on the minstrel. That's the leading two. Russian Groom not going to make it as they come now inside the final furlong. It's Lester Pickett on the near side of the minstrel. Hot Grove on the far side. It's between these two. It's going to be very close. The minstrel on the near side, just the winner.
Tony Cook calling home the minstrel, always remembered for that blitzkrieg finish of Lester Pickett on the minstrel, but Willie Carson reckons he rode the greatest race of his life almost to get Hot Grove so close to the minstrel. The minstrel, of course, was favourite for the Derby, and if you reckon that Entrepreneur is an absolute certainty to win this afternoon, go back exactly 50 years. 1947, Tudor Minstrel, the champion 2-year-old of 1946, was unbeaten, and under Sir Gordon Richards had won a sizzling 2,000 guineas by 8 lengths. Labelled the horse of the century, Tudor Minstrel was back down to 7-4 on to give Sir Gordon his first Derby, but it all went wrong.
Gordon Richards and the favourite made a gallant effort. Though he held on, Tudor Minstrel was tiring. Bridgeland, the French coast jockey, had in fact got the race well in hand, and he began to look as if only Sire Giraud or Migoli, now fourth, could stave off another French triumph. Earl Diver galloped on with great resolution. The favourite began to fade away.
21 years on, Sir Ivor was arguably another non-stayer. He was the next Derby favourite to start at odds-on. This time, backers were rewarded by Lester Piggott at his supreme, nonchalant best on a brilliant colt.
Into the straight, the favourites line back in 6th place. Sir Ivor had never run this distance before, and either stamina to bring him through. Well, here it comes. On the outside, nearest camera, Lester Piggott and Sir Ivor begin that astonishing finishing burst. On past Remand and Mount Athos, on past the valiant Connaught, almost as if he'd grown wings like Pegasus, Sir Ivor flies to the post.
The ill-fated Shergar at 11-10 on in 1981 was an even more emphatic winner, scoring by a record 10 lengths. He gave 18-year-old choir boy Walter Swinburne the first of his 3 derbies.
And Shergar is going on and going clear. The odds-on favourite clear in the Derby with just over 2 furlongs left to go. It's Shergar in the lead and clear from Silver Season. Lester Piggott coming very wide on shotgun, but they've got 2 furlongs left to race, under 2 furlongs to go. And it's Shergar in the lead. Shergar from Scintillating Air in 2nd place. Church Parade is 3rd, Shotgun 4th. Then comes Glint of Gold, but Shergar is well clear with a furlong to go. Shergar a long, long way clear of his rivals. Shergar in the lead and clear. Walter Swinburne riding him out, going for home ahead of Glint of Gold in 2nd. Scintillating Air is 3rd, Shotgun is 4th. But coming up to the line, Shergar is going to win it at the line. Shergar is the winner. Very easy winner.
3 years later, if you'd laid the odds on another outstanding 2,000 guineas winner, El Gran Senor, it only seemed a question of how far he'd win by at the 2 furlong marker. This time, though, it was the bookies who were reprieved, but only in their final desperate stride.
Henry's looking round for dangers. Secreto on the outside is his danger. The rest are like whirling dervishes. It's Henry sitting still, but he's after quicker now. It's El Gran Senor and Secreto inside the final furlong. El Gran Senor and Secreto. El Gran Senor, Secreto. Guiding that is going to be third. El Gran Senor, Secreto. It's a digging on battle in the line. El Gran Senor and Secreto at the line. It's Secreto from El Gran Senor.
And it was the unbeaten little colt Tenby who was the most recent odds-on chance in the Derby in '93. But early in the straight, Tenby was doomed. Punters were dumbfounded as his Henry Cecil-trained stable companion, Commander-in-Chief, also owned by Khalid Abdullah and ridden by Entrepreneur's jockey Michael Cannan, roared clear.
Up towards the line, the Commander's in charge. Commander-in-Chief takes the Derby.
So 5 on.
And we have Benny the Dip, an 8-to-1, drawn 8 to 10-to-1 chance with Willie Ryan having his 4th ride in the race. Bold Demand is 20-to-1. Frankie Dettori's 6th ride. Cloudings is a 14-to-1 chance, and that's partnered by Olivier Pellier, having only his 2nd ride in the Derby. Crystal Hearted, a possible front runner here at 66-to-1, the man of Tony McGlone, having his 1st ride. Entrepreneur trading odds on now, take 5-to-4, and Mick Kinnan has won the Derby before. This is his 9th stab at the race. Faris, a 12-to-1 chance with Richard Hills, who's riding in his 6th Derby. His brother Michael rides Musal Salah, 40-to-1 chance. Papier, a 200-to-1 outsider, a 1st Vodafone Derby ride for Gary Carter. An experienced man, John Reed, Romanoff, a 25-to-1 chance. John's 13th trip round Epsom in the Derby. Not as experienced as Pat Henry, though. Silver Patriarch is mounted 6-to-1. 45-year-old Pat running in his 25th Derby. Single Empire, 40-to-1, David Harrison, his 2nd ride. Kieran Fallon rides Simmons in, a 33-to-1 chance. Tanata doesn't take part, but the Fly is 14-to-1 now, ridden by Ray Cochrane, having his 8th ride in the Derby. That's the lineup. It's the Vodafone Derby Stakes. 2.5 minutes of pure adrenaline.
That is the scene down at the start. The big race due off in now just under 20 minutes at 3:45. Big crowd down there. We'll be going down there very soon to talk to them as they arrive at the start, and just seeing how wet Benny the Dip or Benny the Drip actually becomes. The scene is set for a gorgeous afternoon, and this is the parade ring at the back of the grandstand.
He wasn't badly behaved, he just had a good look, and in the end Michael Stout put his hand on his quarters, and the horse consented. And just finalising. Tall, leggy grey, still a little bit unfurnished. He'll be an even better 4-year-old. Definitely a leading chance, judged on what he's done this season. A close 3rd at Sandown, and then a crushing winner at Lingfield of the Derby trial. Stamina is absolutely no problem, and he has Pat Henry on board. Another grey, Cloudings, the French challenger. A good topped individual by Sadler's Wells, out of a mare by Rusticaro, from where he probably gets his colour. Rusticaro, a grey. Won a Group 1 last time. Nobody was very impressed at the time, but since André Fabre won the French Derby last weekend with Peintre Célèbre, his odds have tumbled. He's said to have galloped very well with it. There'll be some party if he can pull off this victory under Ray Cochrane.
John Frankham's down here. John, first of all, very unfamiliar, even for horses who've been racing it 3 or 4 times. How are they taking it?
Most are taking it really well. I mean, Faris, he got a little bit warm when he had his first run at Newmarket, and he's the same again.
Yeah, John Frankham's confidence in Entrepreneur, who's now 5-to-4 on, having touched 11-to-10. Great confidence in this favourite. Silver Patriarch at 6-to-1. Benny the Dip at 10s. On 12s then Faris and Cloudings. The Flyers fancied 14s from 20-to-1. On 20s Bold Demand at 25-to-1 Romanoff. 33-to-1 Simmons in. Muzalzal and Single Empire both at 40-to-1. Crystal Hearted at 66-to-1. And a rank outsider in this year's Vodafone Derby, Papier at 200-to-1.
Benny the Dip, much less warm than he usually gets, but if he does sweat, don't worry. He always does it, and won the Dante in real style. Good deserved chance ride for Willie Ryan. Bold Demand looked none too enthusiastic at Newmarket. The reason why people are backing him is the presence of Frankie on his back. Cloudings, the French hope, will be first winner for champion trainer Fabre, ran for Jockey Peslier. Took a long time to win the Prix Lupin, but sure to stay. Crystal Hearted, there aren't many better looking in this field. He won his last race by a long, long way. One of the leaders early and might just be there at the end. The favourite, not guaranteed to be as good at this distance as at the Guineas Mile, but that's about the only question about him. He looks marvellous, no sign of nerves so far. Faris has had a minor sinus operation since his last run, but it's thought to be fully recovered. He's also had trouble with the leg, but he's probably still improving. He'll need to. New Sal, one of three by Sadler's Wells. Not, I think, the most likely winner of the three. He was well beaten by Benny the Dip in the Dante Stakes. If you want a three-figure price, Papua is probably the one. A visor made him run away the last time out at Lingfield. It'd be much easier for Gary Carter to settle him without one today. Nevertheless, I'm afraid he's a remote outsider. Romanov, beautifully bred, has had an operation on his leg, and after finishing third in the Irish Guineas, he was said to have a runny nose. Improvement is possible, to say the least, and he's not certain to stay. And the grey, Silver Patriarch, guaranteed to need every yard of this distance. Impressive at Lingfield. He's improved with every one of his 6 races. With Pat Henry aboard, a serious danger to the favourite. Single Empire has already won the Italian Derby, and that was a wonderfully game performance. He'll need a lot more now, but of Robert Sangster's pair, well, this one looks much the best chance to me. Simmons Inn would be the first northern winner since Dante, and that was at Newmarket during the war. He looked a tricky ride at York, but Kieran Fallon is in classic winning form. And lastly, the Fly. Probably started the longest price of the 3 greys, and he showed a fierce turn of speed at York last time. He has a famously lucky owner, a definite outside chance.
And there has been some money for the Fly, popular because of the name, I think. Was 33 to 1, now 14 to 1 the Fly. And other creatures to win the Derby, like Flying Fox, Spaniel won it, Lap Dog, and also Spread Eagle. So if you fancy the Fly, there is some precedent for it. But there's no doubt they are smashing in now to this on.
Right-handed and off around the horseshoe. The first 5 furlongs, remember, it climbs 140 feet. Really a stiff climb, you just go and walk it. And at the end, triumph or disaster. But to win the Derby is to share in a very special fulfilment. For those involved, it is more than the end of 2.5 minutes of racing strain. It is, in every sense, a dream come true.
The betting says it'll be Entrepreneur this year. 6 to 4 on. He's a red hot favourite now. Silver Patriarch at 6 to 1. Benny the Dip at 10s on 12 to 1. Then 5. There's a bit of money now for Cloudings into 12 to 1 from 14s, and more money for the Fly. The best each way hope here, 12 to 1 from 14s was 20 to 1. At 20 to 1, Bold Demand, 25's Romanov, Simmons in at 33 to 1, 40 to 1, Muzalzal and Single Empire, Crystal Hearted at 66 to 1, and just a penny or two now for Papua, who's into 150 to 1 from 200 to 1.
Start 360 feet up, and they climb another 134 at the top of the hill. So as Bruff told you, there's dogleg to the right after a couple of furlongs, and then they begin to sweep left and run down, where position is all important. You drop some 40-50 feet down to Tattenham Corner, and then into the straight, And remember the camber towards the inside of the rail, you're dropping as well. It's a unique course, all right, and it takes a special horse.
First horse to arrive down at the start is Romanov, John Reed. He is Oliver Perrier, who was our guest on the morning line this morning on Cloudings. Just getting a little bit hot, as you can see. Over there is Frankie on Bold Demand. That still looks quite cool. Here comes Papier, the big outsider. I'm looking for Benny the Dip to see if he's going to be Benny the Drip. He's just coming over towards us now. The starter, by the way, Simon Morant, will be starting his 4th derby. He's assisted by Peter Haynes. And one of the interesting points here, one of the stall handlers is Brian Taylor. And it was his father, late father, who won the 1974 Derby on Snow Night. Coming around towards me now is Entrepreneur. Let me have a close look, and he's getting hot. He's warming up a little bit, no doubt about that. And Michael Canan's just got a bit of grass there, just wiping the sweat off the horse's neck. Let's hear from the man on board. What are his thoughts? Will Entrepreneur stay the 1.5 miles? Vodafone Derby is off and running. They're loading up.
So just going around behind the stalls, starting to load. Entrepreneur, Faris, Entrepreneur and the Fly, they were all the positives. Silver Patriarch and Benny the Dip just moving out slightly in the betting.
More and more punters convinced now that Entrepreneur will win the Derby. 6-4 on. 1 or 2 bookmakers asking for 30-8. Easy to back. Silver Patriarch at 6-1. 11-1 bar the 2. Is the race all over? Has Entrepreneur won already? According to the betting, he has.
So 218 years ago it all began. The Derby over a mile, won by Diomed, and for a long time, a win here has been the seal of glory, if you like, in the thoroughbred world. So many great names have won it. Will Entrepreneur join that line, or will Frankie Dettori upstage him on Bold Demand from the Godolphin operation, which has added a new dimension to the racing world by training horses in the Middle East? Only 13 runners for this particular renewal, and the last time we had a super horse win the race, there were just 13. 91 when Generous ran away from the lot. So for Derby 97, here's Graham Good.
2.5 minutes in of pure adrenaline, pure rush. The first £1 million Derby, the richest prize in British sport. The last one loads. Under orders, and they're away. 1.5 miles in front of them, and uphill for the first half. It is Crystal Hearted, Benny the Dip and Faris who are the first three to show. Up on the outside we've got Simmons in, Bold Demand, holding a wide stall, and then Single Empire just in behind this. At this stage the favourite midfield, and it's Crystal Hearted that shows the way. In second place Musel Cell and Bold Demand, Simmons in the inside. Faris not that far away, Benny the Dip holds a good position, and the favourite Entrepreneur in behind them. Pat Heddery on, Silver Patriarch sits in about 7th or 8th place. Single Empire and Papier towards the back as they make their way through the first 3 furlongs, and it's Crystal Hearted and Benny the Dip sitting 1 and 2. Bold Demand, the blue jacket, the inside, Stripe Cap, the outer is Faris, then Single Empire, followed by Cloudings and Simmons in, and then we have Musel Cell. Just a length behind these on the outside is Single Empire, Romanoff with a run. Entrepreneur on the outside of the pack at this stage. The Flying Silver Patriarch are towards the back, and they're through the first half mile. At the top of the hill then in Crystal Hearted, Tony McGlone in his first Derby leads to Benny the Dip in second, and Bold Demand, the all blue, the inside of on the outside Farish, and then we have Single Empire, Simmons in the inside of Musel, Cell and Cloudings and Papier. Entrepreneur just being pushed along a little bit. The Fly out the back is going to be played for speed. So too Silver Patriarch, and Romanoff is towards the back as they begin the descent, and they're past the halfway stage. The 6-4 on favourite Entrepreneur is 4th from last at this stage as they make the descent to Tattenham Corner. 5 furlongs to go in the Vodafone Derby. Still Crystal Hearted has it. To Bold Demand, the inside of Benny the Dip, and a little bit of scrimmaging there. Entrepreneur on the outside side of the field is still 5th last. The fly is being played late. They continue the descent round Tattenham Corner, and it's Benny the Dip who commits and goes on. 2 Crystal Hearted in second. Entrepreneur the favourites on the wide outside. In behind Clouding, just down the straight to come, and it's Benny the Dip in the lead. 2 Faris in second. Bold Demand in third. Here comes Entrepreneur the outside of Simmons in. Crystal Hearted is crawled enough. Silver Patriarch under pressure, but Benny the Dip is cleared by 4 lengths and a quarter of a mile to go in the Vodafone Derby. 2 in second place, Faris. Silver Patriarch. Entrepreneur, the odds-on favourite, will not be winning from that position, but it's Benny the Dip cleared by about 5. 2 in second place, Silver Patriarch, who's eating up ground. Into third goes Romanoff. Entrepreneur only 4th, and Patriarch on Silver Patriarch putting in a power finish. Giant strides to greatness. Benny the Dip holds him up the line. It's on the run. A photo, Benny the Dip and Silver Patriarch. 2 Romanoff in third, then Entrepreneur only 4, followed by the Fly and Faris, and behind these came Simmons in, and behind Simmons in Blue Cell. Bold Demand beats Clouding, Single Empire, Crystal Hearted, and last of all was Papua, the rank outsider. And so this, the 218th Vodafone Derby, has gone to a photo. And a very close call indeed between, on the right, Benny the Dip in the colours of Mr. Landon Knight. On the far side, that white jacket has John Gosden lifted his first derby and only his 4th ride in the race for 32-year-old Willie Ryan. Has he repelled the late thrust of number 10, Silver Patriarch, in the colours of Peter Winfield? This one trained by John Dunlop and 45-year-old Pat Edery in his 25th derby. The outcome is a photo to the Vodafone Derby. A close call to boot. 3rd horse home was Romanoff. What a disappointment for Entrepreneur.
What a wonderful finish to this race. Benny the Dip and Willie Ryan, they certainly they chopped off Crystal Hearted coming round the bend, but he could smell that he had a chance there, Willie Ryan, and he pushed this horse all the way up the straight. And Silver Patriarch was struggling to go to the pace early on, but he was catching this horse hand over fist. I thought he was going to go in win a length. As it was incredibly tight in the end. When they went by, first of all, I thought that the horse on the right, Benny the Dip, had won. When we saw that photo, I wasn't anywhere near as sure. The one thing that you can be certain of, well, there you go, it's certainly not conclusive even from that photo. Maybe the horse this side just a fraction in front of the grey. But Silver Patriarch looks nailed on for the St. Leger.
Yeah, but if you had to have a bet, John, you'd say that Benny the Dip has won, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah.
Let's say you had to put a decision down.
Yeah, if you had to put a decision down. And a certain amount of justice if it...
tight. It's awful. I should be saying fantastic and everything else here at the moment, but what are you feeling?
I don't know yet.
How did the race go? When?
The race was fantastic for me. I just hung on.
Could you hear Pat coming after you?
I could see him.
You could see him. Well, it's taking them some time to do this vote. Wait.
First, number 1.
Yes, you've won the derby.
Second, number 10.
Really well done, Willie.
Third, number 9.
Lovely horse.
I was about to say a certain amount of justice, because Willie Ryan, he's been attached to Henry Cecil's stable for a long time, been a good servant, and he must have felt when the Pat Edery gave up the retainer there that he would be the first in line. That job, of course, as everybody knows, went to Kieran Fallon, but he's kept smiling, he's kept working, and I would think that Henry Cecil will be as pleased for Willie Ryan as he could have been if he'd done it himself. As for the favourite, Entrepreneur, well, he got a bump at the start, but never travelled well. For a horse that travelled so well in the Guineas, he never travelled well at all this afternoon. He wouldn't have won at a mile, wouldn't have won at any distance.
Second place, they say, is the first loser, but this horse ran a brilliant race. He was beaten narrowly on El Gran Senor. Pat's had 4 Derby winners himself, John Dunlop 2, but for the owners, they have to feel the disappointment of so near and yet so far. John Gosden, about whom after his Derby near misses, many people said, well, is he any good as a trainer? Well, John has never stopped having winners since then. Shantou broke the British Classic duck, and this will be the sweetest victory of the night.